Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Fellowship of Nanaimo. Our mission is to create spiritual connection and bring compassion, discovery, and social justice to life. My name is Larry Bolt, and I have the honor and privilege to be your service leader this morning. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And now's the time that we ask you to please silence your cell phones. As I've said a couple of times in the past, I've always been the guy that it goes off for, and everybody stares at me. Let's say hello to everyone attending on Zoom. So if you turn and look at the frog on the wall up there where Tony's pointing, give them a wave, and you can turn around here, you'll see them waving back at you. Whatever your hopes, dreams, and aspirations, whatever your race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, whatever makes you who you are warmly welcomed here. In keeping with our Unitarian Universalist aspiration of radical inclusion, we invite you to share your pronouns as well as your name when introducing yourself, if you are comfortable doing so. We are grateful for a diversity of voices on Sunday, and our services vary from week to week. Our service is between 60 and 75 minutes long. If this is your first time with us, a very special welcome to you. If you are joining us online, please consider sharing your contact information with us. You can share it with the host by going to the chat icon at the bottom of your screen. We'd love to welcome you to our community. We have a website, ufon.ca, and that's spelled UFON.ca, and invite you to check it out for more detailed information about who we are, the services we offer, and how you can connect with us. We acknowledge today that we meet on the traditional territory of the Nanaimo First Nation. As Unitarians, we are committed to the work of reconciliation required to address the harm done to all Indigenous peoples and their cultures by non-Indigenous peoples. We have much to learn from the Indigenous perspective, including that the earth is the source of all life, and that our responsibility is to honor and care for it. We are once again grateful to have, in Leah's absence, Jenny Vincent. She's going to be leading us in our music today. Jenny grew up in Winnipeg, and some days known as Winterpeg, where she obtained her undergraduate degrees in music and education at the University of Manitoba. She has given numerous recitals, been music director in churches, and taught music at elementary schools throughout Canada. When not working as a collaborative accompanist for Malaspina Choir, Jenny devotes her energy to the Old City Arts Hub, a not-for-profit society dedicated to creating a mid-sized performance venue in Nanaimo. Now, we invite you to stick around after the service. I'm going to be kicking things off after the service with a brief, yes, you heard correctly, brief review of our budgets to date. We'll then be showing a film titled Unfolding Faith by the National Film Board of Canada. We'll follow this short film with a Q&A period. This is our town hall today, so be sure to stick around.
And an auction announcement.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's going to be an auction announcement. Ooh. I wasn't aware of that, but that's good to know. Thank you. And do you enjoy putting jigsaw puzzles together? If so, then check out our new puzzle exchange. A selection of new to us jigsaw puzzles are now available in the library to borrow, or swap one out for one you've already done. Only gently used puzzles with all their pieces, please. Let's keep it fun for everybody. And are you like me and missing some of the extra events that we used to see happening here before that nasty COVID decided to change our world? We're looking for someone to take the lead on putting together a social event. We've got one that has come in, a compassion cafe, which sounds really interesting. We're open to different ideas though. Some have been suggested our traditional old spaghetti dinner, a musical evening, which is kind of what the compassion cafe is, a fancy dress potluck. Get your tuxedos out, guys. A games night or a movie night, or just let your imagination run free. We currently have this one event being worked on, so if you have an idea that you would like to lead the way on, See Brenda at the welcoming table. I'm throwing her under the bus here. She didn't know I was going to do that. And she'll take note of it. To find out about all special events, groups, and meetings taking place in the hall, you can go to the calendar on our website, read the weekly email sent to you on Friday, or check out the large whiteboards in the hall by the washrooms through this side door here. We're now going to enter into sacred time with our guest musician, Jenny Vincent. She will lead us into worship through music. Please rise as you're willing and able to join us in singing song 1053. Today, we have our own Reverend Ashley Burczak. She joined us at the end of November after serving the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Sterling, Virginia for the past 3 years. Thank you for being here again.
Welcome to this place of reflection, fellowship, and inner growth. I'm Reverend Ashley, and it is my honor to serve as your minister here. As we enter into this time of sacred awareness, I invite you to rest. Rest in this present moment with an open heart. Simply let this moment be as it is. Our chalice lighting today comes from Amanda Calloway. In memory of all the flames that didn't die, in the midst of darkness, in spite of darkness, we light this flame today. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. And today, as we mourn the events at Tumbler Ridge, we light an additional candle of remembrance for each of those who are lost and all those who are grieving them. May they be comforted. Please rise in body or spirit as you're willing and able to sing the oneness of everything. story for all ages today is called Be Kind. It's by Pat Zietlow Miller and illustrated by Jen Hill. Tanisha spilled grape juice yesterday. All over her new dress. Everyone laughed. I almost did too, but Mom always tells me to be kind, so I tried. Purple's my favorite color. I don't think it worked. I thought Tanisha would smile, but she ran into the hall instead. When she came back, snack time was over. She put on her art smock and didn't look at anyone. I almost told Tanisha that art was my favorite class, but I didn't want her to leave again, so I painted purple splotches and added some green until I had a bunch of beautiful violets. While I painted, I thought about Tanisha. Should I have handed her my napkin? Let her borrow my sweatshirt? Spilled my juice so everyone stared at me instead? What does it mean to be kind, anyway? Making cookies for Mr. Rinaldi, who lives alone. Letting someone with smaller feet have my too tight shoes. He might win races in them, too. Maybe it's helping, putting dirty dishes in the sink. Cleaning up after Otis, our class guinea pig. He's a messy eater. Maybe it's paying attention, telling Desmond I like his blue boots, asking the new girl to be my partner, listening to Aunt Franny's stories, even the ones I've heard before. Being kind should be easy, like throwing away a wrapper or recycling a bottle or saying, thank you, bless you. My mom says the quickest way to be kind is to use people's names. Being kind can be hard, too. Even when you know what to do, teaching someone something I'm good at is tricky, even when I'm patient. And sticking up for someone when other kids aren't kind is really hard and really scary. Maybe I can't solve Tanisha's grape juice problem. Maybe all I can do is sit by her in art class and paint this picture for her because I know she likes purple too. Maybe I can only do small things, but my small things might join small things other people do, and together they could grow into something big. Something really big, so big that all our kindnesses spill out of our school, spread throughout town, travel across the country, and go all the way around the world. Right back to Tanisha and me, so we can be kind again. We are a community that seeks to be present to one another, especially in times of great joy and sorrow. Now is the time in our service when we make space to listen deeply to significant losses and milestones. If you're in the sanctuary, I invite you to come to the pulpit, to share your name and your joy or your sorrow. And as you share, you can place a stone into this bowl of water. And for all the joys and sorrows, now we will place a final stone for the joys and sorrows spoken and unspoken. We hold in our hearts all that has been shared. And I invite you to join in a moment of silence for prayer or meditation as you are called.
And an announcement I forgot earlier was just for all of you who celebrate Gong Hei Fat Choi for Chinese New Year. And our reading today comes from Reverend Rebecca Parker. In the midst of a world marked by tragedy and beauty, there must be those who bear witness against unnecessary destruction and who, with faith, rise and lead in freedom, with grace and power. There must be those who speak honestly and do not avoid seeing what must be seen of sorrow and outrage or tenderness and wonder. There must be those whose grief troubles the water while their voices sing and speak refreshed words. There must be those whose exuberance rises with lovely energy that articulates earth's joys. There must be those who are restless for respectful and loving companionship among human beings, whose presence invites people to be themselves without fear. There must be those who gather with the congregation of remembrance and compassion, draw water from old wells, and walk the simple path of love for neighbor. Please rise as you're willing and able and join us in singing song number 318 from the Singing Living Traditions book, We Would Be One.
haven't been here in Canada all that long, but I have a theory about why Canada has been a bit more resistant to authoritarianism than some other countries in recent years. And I want to name what I see because I think it's important to take note of it. We need to understand what is working and why. It's because Canadians are so darn nice. I don't know if you know this, but it's a bit of a stereotype about y'all. And it seems it's kind of true. Now, there's a difference between nice and kind, and I think it's a little bit of both in this case. And by nice, I don't mean fake nice, like hiding one's true feelings or avoiding hard topics. I mean something more like being polite or being gentle. Probably, most of the time, being kind also means being nice. There's some overlap. But kindness is more generally acting from a place of care and compassion, so sometimes it doesn't look very gentle at all. I'm not saying being nice is the only way to avoid authoritarianism. I think being kind is, but not being nice. I lived in Ireland for a year, and the Irish are pretty good at avoiding authoritarianism too, rather famously without being very nice about it at all. And it isn't just about the niceness even here. Having a political structure that doesn't make it easy for a single party to take control of every branch of government is protective. So is education and a social safety net and strong labor unions and community and a lot of other things. Those protections allow niceness to even be an option. There isn't just one thing. This is a forever struggle on many different fronts, not a single battle that's won and over forever. Niceness has its limitations and its downsides, but niceness really does have its strengths too. In a democracy, there is one thing about authoritarianism that being nice seems to contain, and that is the defensiveness of a certain kind of person who can become very dangerous when they feel threatened. Now, authoritarians can always find something that supposedly victimizes them. Anything that challenges their total control of the culture can be used. Coffee cup design, someone else's hair dye color, the race of mythical beings, you name it. So it's exceedingly easy to set off that defensiveness, but there are ways of approaching people that are more and less likely to do that. Refusal to believe in people's capacity to change, harsh and global criticism that assumes the worst of people and dehumanizes them. That's more likely to create defensiveness. And specious complaints about the horrors of hearing the words happy holidays or other people existing while speaking different languages are a bit different than those real experiences of hostility that people, often people who haven't had the same access to information as those criticizing them, may encounter when they aren't, well, woke enough. What do I mean by woke? Well, the term originated in the early part of the 20th century in African American communities to describe awareness of racial injustice. And it further gained popularity in the 70s during the Black Power movement, and its use expanded again in the 2010s with the rise of Black Lives Matter. And that's when its use expanded to include a wider view that included many different forms of oppression. And it didn't just expand, it also started to lose some of its original connotations as it was Columbused and became less associated with civil rights for Black Americans. In the 2000s, it was often used as a hashtag, stay woke. Originally, it implied commitment and action, but the wokeness of the 2010s, even before it was redefined by those on the political right to include any view that was at all interested in any kind of egalitarian social change, was primarily concerned with what people thought and what people knew. It positioned knowing the right things as virtuous and showing knowledge of the right things as the key to being a good human. It isn't bad to know things. Taking the time to learn about the ways that suffering is imposed in the world, especially if that suffering is impacting people with less power than us. Taking time to consider the ways our own lives are unfairly constrained. Thinking about how the world could be better. Those are not bad things to do. But what Americans forgot was that those things are mostly important because they create some of the conditions that allow structural and institutional change. They create the conditions to actually address that suffering. I guess some people would accuse me of wokeness. I've read some books that use the word paradigm a lot. I'm not saying knowledge doesn't matter. But I don't put a ton of value on what I know. Because reading those books didn't alleviate much real-world suffering, and alleviating suffering is the thing that really matters to me. One of the ways that the social contract failed in America was that we stopped talking about real people's suffering and meaningful institutional change to relieve suffering. We talked about words, we talked about symbols, we talked about gestures. We talked about being woke enough to consume the right things, or being even woker than that and consuming the wrong things, hashtag no ethical consumption. But we didn't talk about people's material conditions and a plan for how to change them. And maybe because we had so little structural power and so little idea how to get more, we talked about intellectual ideas and the performance of ideas. What we did not address was the state of our institutions, how to hold power in schools, religious institutions, local and national governments, corporations, military, police forces, media. Intellectual commitment, intellectual correctness, is of very limited use to people who are facing real-world violence. And violence, of course, is what authoritarianism is. Violence coordinated by institutions. Violence is what oppression is. Violence coordinated by small and large-scale propaganda, which again requires institutions. I like my books about paradigms, but when we focus on having the right thoughts, to the exclusion of considering where institutional power lies, we might convince most people to give lip service to certain ideals, but the moment that becomes inconvenient for those in real power, all of those trappings go out the window. Culture will follow the power imposed by institutions. You can convince 90% of people of something, but if it's the 10% who are the ones in power, it won't matter much. What too much supposed activism in America was a practice of intellectual gatekeeping, creating a mirror of strong in-group and out-group thinking that was really a big part of the original problem. There was a perfectionism to it. And perfectionism is really core to some of the basic psychology of authoritarianism. That perfectionist gatekeeping asked for performance of ideas exactly at the historical moment when what was really at issue in the public sphere was widespread control of multiple institutions. In other words, when what was really at issue was who would have the ability to control propaganda and enact violence without consequence. That means that rather than being gentle with people and tough on institutions, we did exactly the opposite. Rather than working to build connections, rather than focusing on what was wrong with our institutions, rather than each other, Americans, helped along by bots, of course, were very busy disconnecting from each other, criticizing each other, and solidifying an us versus them mentality. Polarizing just when we needed to come together, inflaming defensive reactions when what we needed was to find ways around defensiveness so we could work together and change the institutions that define our lives. We were calling people out on Twitter instead of taking over its ownership. It's an incredible practice of ethical and spiritual development to learn to accept criticism without defensiveness, to just consider with equanimity whether someone is right about a criticism, let it go if it isn't, and make a change if it is, to set our ego aside and think about our impact on others. We should all work towards this. But many people are not yet ready to take on that kind of practice. It's not easy. We haven't all had wonderful, gentle parents who taught us how to reflect on our actions with empathy for others and a growth mindset and belief in our ability to change. Many people have grown up with a much more punitive and judgmental mentality. And the more someone has accepted the idea that some people are good and some people are bad, and if you're even a little bit bad in any way, you're one of the bad ones, the harder it will be for them to do this. If they've been indoctrinated into the idea that there's only one good way to be a person, they will really freak out and lash out when they hear criticism. So it's really good for us to take on the practice of accepting criticism well, but that's some hard work. We just can't realistically expect everyone to do that, even if it would be the reasonable or correct thing for them to do. The other piece of that spiritual practice of accepting criticism ourselves is leaning into shared goodness rather than criticizing others. And we Americans with our Puritan roots don't always get that. But Canadians are really good at understanding this. Canadian criticism is so gentle you'll miss it if you blink. And it's really countercultural in the age of the internet when everyone is so harsh. And that kind of intentional gentleness, finding points of connection, focusing on the good in people, is key to maintaining relationships of all kinds. And I think that's part of why community is surviving in Canada better than it is in many other parts of the world. It's not that Canadians can't talk about concerns and injustices, but there's a recognition that humanizing people and leaving room for them to change is very important to having critiques be heard. We all need a way to be called in rather than called out. A way to refocus attention on the impacts of our behavior rather than creating in-groups and out-groups. The events at Tumbler Ridge this week can make us feel like everything is going wrong. There are no words to make it feel right, and there's no way to encompass that grief. It may feel very hopeless. But as a newcomer here, what I've been most struck by this week is how many things are still going right. People responded to this horrible tragedy with shared grief and a sense of community. They talked about institutional, structural solutions that we could all agree on. There was an ability to function together as a society that is beautiful and life-affirming. People didn't forget each other's humanity, and people were gentle with each other. In the end, what moves a society toward better things is a focus on hope, care for others, and joy, and what moves us toward harm is a focus on fear and hate. And I know that the events this week are impossibly horrific, but Canadians responded with hope and care, and a focus on shared institutions. They didn't lean into fear and division, though of course those forces are always there. They responded by being, well, nice. I don't think that any country is immune to the wave of authoritarianism that is sweeping the world, but I do see some of the seeds of resilience here. And I hope that you see that goodness too. I hope you can see all the goodness that's showing itself in the dark times. There's a lot of it. So stay woke, if that means it's not leaving anyone behind. And stay nice, if what that means is not giving up on anyone. You're showing the rest of the world how to hold on to goodness. You're showing us how to keep our humanity in the face of tragedy. May we all keep living into that example and build a world that is a little kinder. Amen.
For those of us in the hall, Joan and Charla will now pass the baskets for the offering. And for those with us for the first or the second time, we consider your presence to be your contribution. Please feel free to let the basket pass you by. Those online can go to our website and click the big blue donate button on the homepage to make a donation. To help the wider community, half of all cash donations will be given to our charity of the month. Our charity this month is Community Circles Restorative Justice Society, a nonprofit that provides restorative justice and conflict mediation services for free to individuals, groups, and organizations on Vancouver Island. If your donation is by e-transfer or check and you want it to be shared with the charity of the month, please make note of that on your e-transfer or check. And for those of you who don't carry cash, we now accept donations via debit or credit cards. This can be done at our welcoming table near the entry doors after the service. Thank you for your generosity towards our congregation and our community. Please rise as you're willing and able and join us in singing along the song number 414 from our Singing the Living Traditions book.
May the pain of the world connect us more deeply to our human family and compel us to connection rather than isolation and love instead of fear. Go in peace.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. We carry in our hearts until we are together again. We are nearing the end of our service. After we sing Carry the Flame, you have the opportunity to join a social group. There are breakout rooms available online for the next 30 minutes. If you want to join an online breakout room, stay online and the host will put you there. We have refreshments and conversation that will happen here in the hall. I want to thank the many people who have given their time and energy to make today's service so wonderful. The Sunday Services Committee, Reverend Ashley, the audiovisual team, our wonderful guest musician, Jenny Vincent, the greeters and offering collectors, those at the welcoming table, the kitchen volunteers who come early and stay late for cleanup, and those who brought food and flowers. Our heartfelt gratitude to you all. And don't forget to stick around today for the town hall. after we have our tea and snacks. We'll now sing our final song, Carry the Flame. The words can be found in the hall in this corner and on the back wall here. Our custom is to stand and hold hands or touch elbows as you are comfortable.
I'm taken back to my childhood. We are a Jesus house. My family goes to church every Sunday. We thank Jesus for the food before every meal. We sing songs to God with our hands raised and our eyes closed as we sway to the soft rock music. Jesus is my best friend.